All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Rad Dads Show. I'm Rob.
And I am Sal.
And we have a very, very, very entertaining episode for you tonight.
Entertaining and interesting.
Yes, and we have an expert in the house, too.
Yes.
Who can tell us all about it. So, Sal, do you want to tell us what the episode is about?
Yes, tonight we are talking about living with the in-laws.
Woo! Oh, shit, Sal. You are an expert on that.
I brought my expert hat tonight. So you have recently been liberated, my friend.
I have been liberated. It was my wife's birthday present. I had nothing to do with it. My in-laws moved out.
Lucky you. So how long did you endure the pain?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months they were here.
Bravo. Rob's the expert. Look at that. The
Crowd's going wild.
They love you, Rob.
But I am not the expert. How long have you lived with your in-law?
Oh, it's going on 13 years now. Yes, 13 years. Now, for those rad dads out there that are contemplating on living with your in-law or in-laws or outlaws, however you want to call them, there are pros and cons of living with your outlaws. So one great aspect, if your in-laws are living with you prior to you having kids and then you start having kids, well, it is a little uncomfortable because they probably hear everything if they're not deaf when you're practicing at nighttime. But anyway, so one of the benefits of having the in-laws living with you when you're having kids is you're saving on the daycare. When you and your wife go to work, your in-laws can watch the baby when you're off to work. Unless you don't trust your in-laws, then that's a different story. I've met people where that has been the case. They don't trust their in-laws.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes, it is. What the fuck did they
did
they do that they don't trust their in-laws? I
will tell you, for those men out there, you don't just marry the lady, you marry into the family. So if you don't trust the in-laws, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow eventually.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it was something that happened after the fact, not before.
Possibly. Who knows? Who am I to say?
So if your wife is tiptoeing around the question, you know it's coming, I highly recommend, unless your in-laws are murderers, I highly recommend you saying yes, especially if you have room in the house.
That goes back to my earlier comment. You marry the family, Sal.
Yes. So if they're axe murderers,
run for the hills then.
Yeah, tell them you put the house up on the market and you're moving west, or north or south or Saskatchewan. That's a good place.
I heard that works out real well.
Yes, I think it's like -49 during the day in the winter season.
Damn, that's serious.
So, Rob, what are your thoughts on living with the in-laws?
I agree with you. I think if your significant other is entertaining the idea, I think you talk it out and you just discuss. If you have any concerns, you discuss it with them. I think that's honestly really important, because if you do have concerns, if your in-laws are overbearing or very opinionated or, will not understand your space, I think that's something you want to get out there beforehand.
Were they?
No, not at all. Listen,
Rob's letting it all out.
Our house is a little bit bigger, so we had like a suite that my in-laws could live in, and it also depends on the size of your house too, right?
Right.
So we had a suite where my in-laws could live. There's common area for TV, kitchen, dining room, but we're lucky enough to have a living room and a family room, and then the kids have their toy room, and I have my office. My wife has her office, so ample room for everyone to operate on their own and get their alone time and also come together as a family. So from my perspective and my experience, it was fine. I actually lived at my in-laws' house when we first got married. We moved up from South Jersey and didn't have a place to live while my wife was pregnant. So we actually lived there for 6 months. So all in all, we've done it for,
look at that. So
we've done it for a year, different times. It wasn't COVID then. I was going into the city, so I was gone all day. But it's fine. I knew, at least for me, my father-in-law is an electrician and a plumber, so he did a lot of handiwork around the house for us. and always is willing to help. And my mother-in-law can't sit still for a second, so she would wash the dishes, wash the clothes, fold the clothes.
So those are a lot of
clean.
pros.
Yeah, a lot of pros, but at the same time, you don't get alone time.
No, that is one of the cons. You don't get alone time. They tend to eventually start pushing boundaries, invading your space, invading your privacy. Sometimes you feel as though there's nothing sacred in the house. You could be laying on your bed at home, and one of the in-laws just pop in like it's just another room in the house.
I will tell you, this is a great story. So I work corporate America. My father-in-law was, I think, a plant maintenance mechanic until he retired. And I'll be on conference calls, and when I work from home, so I work from home 2 days a week, on multiple occasions, he would knock on the door. Now, my wife doesn't bother me when I'm working at all because she knows I'm on conference calls all the time. But my father-in-law, when he comes in, he wants to let you know he's here. He's not being rude by any means.
Hello.
He knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, Rob, I just want to let you know I was here." I was like, "Oh, thanks." But it was funny because it's one of those things that, exactly to your point, is it will interrupt your work. Your not your work, but your habits. Your calendar, and it's not anything malicious, nor is it malintent. It's just, people being people, and your schedule, your habits change when you have other people in your dynamic. Now, they've been gone for 2 weeks now, or a week.
So you're back to walking around the house in your birthday suit?
Damn right. But it changes, right? So my kids like to do their own thing. We engage with like games or whatever. But at the same point, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law aren't here. And, as grandparents, they want to be engaged with the kids. But the kids don't always want to be engaged with them. The kids barely want to be engaged with us. So.
See, I think it's different when your in-laws are living with you when your kids are born. Because they're kind of helping you raise your kids. So they're there constantly, day in and day out. They're there for the good times and the bad times. Whereas your situation is your in-laws, your kids are 10 and 8?
Correct.
So your in-laws just moved in 6 months ago. So your kids, like you said, are already in that routine. They have their thing. Whereas, now they have these two people coming in and trying to interrupt and break that system that they have. It becomes a little bit challenging.
I agree. I agree. And I think so this is the second time we're recording this because I believe we had an audio engineer issue.
Asshole.
And it didn't record correctly. It didn't
He's
sound
fired.
good. So yeah, we fired that fuck.
Yes.
Fuck that guy. So so I think that's what I said early on the previous recording is
Fuck that guy?
No.
Oh.
That I think there's a big difference between the in-laws being there from day one versus trying to come in and it throws everything off. It throws everything out of whack.
Yeah. So when your in-laws live with you, everything obviously changes with privacy, space. You have to set that boundary on day one. You have to set the limits because if you don't and you assume that they understand the boundaries, those boundaries will be violated faster than you know it. My mother-in-law has helped us out tremendously through the years. I will not deny that. But there's also been some heartache with her living in the house because you want to instill certain values in your kids. You want to raise your kids a certain way. Then you have that other aspect where your in-laws are thinking you're doing something wrong, or they want to try and instill certain values, or they want to try and raise their grandkids a certain way. And that's what I mean by you got to set the boundary, because if you don't tell them, hey, look, they're my kids, this is how we do things in this house, you will be butting heads for a real long time. I mean, it got just once over the course of the years that my mother-in-law's been with us, it got to a point where my wife was fighting with her mom almost on a daily basis. And it was starting to affect our relationship, my wife and I. So I had to, I threw up the smoke signals. I had to call her sisters and get her sisters involved. So then she's since backed off, and she understands the boundaries now, and happily ever after.
The brave man right there to call in the sisters. Definitely, he's rolling the dice there.
But dude, it was shitty. It was shitty for a while, even after I called the sisters, because I had to take that from my wife. How could you call my sisters? Then my mother-in-law. You get my kids involved. It was a little
rolling the dice there, pal.
Yeah, it was a little. It's like touch and go for a bit. But
you've also known your wife for a long time.
Yes, we're high school sweethearts.
Yeah, so you have a different stories than some other people may. But I do think one thing there that's really important is, at least from my experience and from experiences of other people that I've talked to, typically it's not you who has an issue with the in-laws. Typically it's your significant other not has an issue, but it brings up childhood. I don't want to say trauma, but just how you operated as a kid, right? It brings up how you were, how you dealt with your parents as a teenager, and sometimes you revert back to that person. And it does end up in arguments and sometimes disagreements with your wife or significant other and their parents. And one of those things is just making sure you can survive that. So supporting your wife when she needs your support. Don't interject. Believe me, learn that the hard way. Don't interject. Keep your mouth shut.
Yes,
and
especially
help her.
Yeah, especially if your wife is in a fight with her parents. Don't jump in the middle.
Yeah, don't. Let it be. Bad idea.
Support.
Even if you think you're being funny, Rob, doesn't work. Sometimes those jokes fall flat.
Rob learned the hard way.
So I highly suggest not being involved and just taking a step back and saying, "Honey, I'm here to help you. This was your idea." Don't say that. I'm just kidding. Just say, "Honey, I'm here to help you."
I heard that really works.
Yeah, no, that definitely doesn't work.
You just throw it in your wife's face that it was her idea.
Yeah. Let me know how that works for you. You can send in your stories.
And you know what? If she's angry, just put a cape around her and say, "Now you're super angry."
You did that, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work. I'd probably get punched for that one.
So, but there's also other things to take into consideration when your in-laws are moving in with you. If you start off as a family of three, you, your wife, and your child, and your in-laws, plural, are moving in, now you become a family of five. So you went from feeding a family of three to now feeding a family of five.
So I will say, this is another thing that was really beneficial for me, at least. My in-laws would go and do shopping.
Oh, wow. Because
yeah,
that's nice.
So my mother-in-law is off the boat Italian. She would go to the store and she essentially cooked and shopped for the family. So it wasn't a big deal. And then her and my wife would kind of alternate on grocery shopping depending on what they were doing. I don't even know.
So you sent your in-laws out to shop when you were in the mood for steak? T-bones?
No, I didn't send them out for anything. I would be asked what I want, and I'm like, whatever the kids want doesn't matter to me.
Rob wrote the shopping list and pinned it to the
porterhouse right here, 2 of them. No, definitely not.
But I mean that you also got to think when I said take into consideration family of 3 to a family of 5. That also, if you vacation a lot, if your in-laws move in and the first time you go on vacation without them, without asking them to join you, that you're going to have hell to pay. Your wife's going to hear it, and then you're going to hear it from your wife. So now a vacation for 3 just turned into a vacation for 5. And since I'm a family of 5, hotels are not made for family of 5. They're only made for a family of 4.
You got a cot. Can your 3 girls sleep in a bed together?
That was the deal back then. Now it's fucking.
Do you have to get 2 rooms?
No, I bring a cot. Because my one daughter, dude, she flails her arms at night. Oh my God, it's crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, when she sleeps with her sisters, very seldom, they always wake up. Oh, you hit me. But yeah, I mean, there are good times and bad times with the in-laws. The one thing you will lose is your privacy and your space. Set those boundaries, right off the bat. You have to let them know where you draw the line. They will watch everything you do. So if you're sitting around the house and not helping your wife, they will let your wife know that. And they will start getting into your wife's head.
That's awesome.
That your husband doesn't do anything. Doesn't cook, doesn't clean, doesn't do laundry.
You do all the cooking.
Yeah, for the most part, I do, yeah. I do all the maintenance stuff in the house, too. Yeah. The maintenance stuff in the house.
Yeah, you do it. I call people.
Yes, I know. I do it myself.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good if I did it. There's a whole thing there.
Rob's not a handy guy, but he has a nice set of tools, though.
Yeah, I could do some like simple stuff, but I ain't changing out. Would you change out the other night?
Hot water heater.
Yeah, that ain't happening. That shit ain't happening. That shit I'm calling somebody to do. Mine's new, so I'm not worried about that. Any other tips for the audience, Sal, about living with your in-laws and how to avoid any distress in the marriage?
I'm going to say embrace it, especially if, it's going to be your in-laws, which is your wife's parents. Depending on the situation, I'm sure they're not moving in with you because they want to. I'm sure it's a situation that they need to move in with you. But have the conversation with your wife. Let her know how you feel. Don't hide anything, because eventually it will come out when you're upset. Just let her know how you feel about the situation, that you're not overly thrilled about it. I wouldn't say no. It's a built-in babysitter. When you want to go food shopping real quick, you want to jump out real quick and go maybe catch a movie with your wife, or even if you want to take the weekend off, go down, 3-day getaway with your wife. There are pros about having the in-laws live with you.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is make sure to take advantage of that, because in most cases it's a temporary situation. Some cases maybe not, but in a lot of cases it's temporary. They're moving houses. They're coming up and visiting from somewhere. It's typically temporary, so you definitely want to use that built-in babysitter to your advantage. You can go out with friends, take your wife out. I think it's important to get out of the house for you and your wife, because it'll get you some alone time, which you're not getting at your house now, which you used to.
So now you got to go pay for a hotel room.
I wasn't saying hotel room. I mean, she's baller. I was more saying like get some like a dinner and a movie, or a dinner and coffee. Whatever you do, you do you.
And then when you get home, park in the driveway, and before you go in, do your business.
Yeah, just don't get arrested.
If you're in your driveway, how are you going to get arrested? Yeah, do your thing. If the cars are rocking, don't come a knocking.
Oh, God. And then your kids come out and be like, Daddy, what are you doing in there? Are you wrestling?
I lost my flashlight in the back seat.
What is our dad lesson for tonight, Sal?
Embrace the question of the in-laws moving in with you. Like I said, I think if your wife is asking the question, it's for a reason, that her parents probably have nowhere to go, or a certain situation. Let your wife know how you feel about it, truly feel about it. Don't get into a fight about it. And just set the boundaries. You got to set the boundaries with the in-laws. Explain to them this is how, you live in the house with your wife and your child or children. Tell them this is how I'm raising my kids. If I need your opinion, I will ask you for your opinion. But, this is how we're going to do it.
And listen, that's from an expert who has over a decade worth of experience here.
Yes.
You got to listen to this guy.
Listen to that guy. Ooh, that brings us to the very, very fun part of this episode. We are reviewing a bourbon tonight. Tonight we are tasting Smugglers Notch.
Small batch?
Is it small batch?
Yeah, it's small batch.
It is small batch. Look at that. Thanks, Rob. So, Smugglers Notch, it is straight bourbon whiskey. Distillery is Smugglers Notch Distillery. Proof is 90 proof, 45% alcohol by volume. The age, I believe it's 4 years. Filtration is unknown. Batch size is small batch. It is a mash bill of 3 grains, 51% corn. They have malted barley and rye. They did win an award. 2016, they won the gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. Amber in color. Price point is $40 to $50. Little history about the Smugglers Notch, the alchemy of the father and son dream. That's the magic that created Smugglers Notch Distillery, owned by father and son Ron and Jeremy Elliott, not to be mistaken for Ron Jeremy. Ron, a retired business executive, and Jeremy, a research chemist in the pharmaceutical industry. He's putting in some of that pharmaceutical stuff in there, huh? Inventoried their strengths and followed their collective passion to work as a team to create a distillery in the Vermont mountains. So Smuggler's Notch is from the mountains of Vermont. Nose and aroma, caramel, apples, and oak. Do you get that? Apples and oak?
I get the oak, not the apples.
I'll give you fucking apples.
Oh, I do get the apples, actually, in the wet glass.
Tasting notes. We always taste our bourbons neat. Cinnamon, caramel, and vaniglia. Finish. This is a slight burn.
You should get that checked out.
The vaniglia?
Yeah.
You don't taste the vaniglia?
Oh, my God. I hope someone listens to this episode. Fucking next episode is going to be a shit show.
Oh, boy. What's going to happen right after this one? So finish, not too complex. It's got a slight burn to it. I'm going to say this is an easy sipper. What do you think, Rob? Are you going to call it an easy sipper?
I like it. I really do. I think it is an easy sipper.
So I'm going to go right to my rating.
Do it.
I'm going to give it a 7.0.
Look at that guy. 7.0 from Sal on the Smuggler Notch small batch. Is that your high? No, that's not your highest this year. All right. So Sal gave it a 7.0. Did you say price point?
I think I did. Yeah, $40 to $55.
Okay. So I got this from the tasting room. I think I paid $50. That's a really, really tough price point. There's some other ones I do enjoy, but this isn't half bad. So I'll give it a 2 on price. The taste, the first time we tasted it, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit smoother, not so much, not so many different tasting notes that I felt I could identify. But I really think the second time, now that the bottle's been open a little bit longer, and I don't know what your opinion is, Sal, but I feel like it tastes a little bit better now.
Now that the oxygen has hit it, yes, I think it tastes a little bit better. Smells a little bit different too.
It smells awesome. So for a tasting, I think I'm going to give it I'll give it a 2 there. And then for a smell, the dry glass really gives a nice hint of something. Like there's a cinnamon, I don't know, vanilla, but something sweet, maybe apples.
There's the apples again.
I got your apples. So I said 2 tasting, 2 price, and I think I'll go with 2.5 on smell. I think the smell really is resonating with me this time. And I think that's half the experience for bourbon. At least bourbon drinkers who regularly, enjoy a glass, especially neat. So with that said, that's a 6.5. I'm hesitant to give it the shelf staple.
The shelf staple.
I'm on the fence. I think it definitely should be. It'll be up there. I think it will be
Close to the shelf staple.
Yeah, that's a mouthfeel.
Shelf staple. Shelf staple.
All right, Sal. Wrong one.
Well, that brings us to the end of our episode, the In-Laws episode. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the Rad Dads Show. Be sure to join us.
Tune in next time for another episode of the Rad Dads Show.
Yes. That's exactly what I was going to say.